Today on Woodworking with Wes, I want to try something that I've never done before. Right here in front of me I have 3 pieces of wood that are really twisted. This is typically wood that I would throw out. I'm going to see if I can't rescue this from the trash can and turn it into something. Based on the fact that if I leave this in large pieces, I can't take the twist out of it, what I'm going to try to do is cut it into small enough pieces that I can take the twist out of it. Perhaps, maybe, no, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make an end grain cutting board. First thing let's do, let's cut all our pieces into 1.5 inch strips. With all my pieces cut to 1.5 inches, I added a few different pieces. I put a piece of oak in here. We're going to space that in here. Oak is very strong, and I'm going to use that to help pull all those pieces together. I also found a couple of pieces of mahogany and a piece of walnut that were just left over. In fact, the walnut is kind of a bowed piece, so we're going to try to take the warp and the twist and the bow out of all of this stuff by clamping it all together just like this. So let's go ahead and glue it all up. We're going to be using Titebond III and clamping it all up. Okay, nice heavy bead of Titebond III on each one of our boards. Plenty of glue. We want this to hold real well because we're not only holding it together for the breadboard, we're holding it together to take that twist out of it. So we want that glue to really hang on. We use Titebond III on all breadboards because it's waterproof, so that when we wash our breadboards, we don't have to worry about the glue coming undone. Okay, make sure we get the squeeze out here. All right, let's glue up the rest of them. Right, here it comes together. Look at that good squeeze out. We want good squeeze out on all our seams. When we get good squeeze out, that means we've got plenty of glue. That also means that our unevenness in our twisted pieces will be disappearing too, because it'll be pulling those pieces together. All right. Plenty of clamps, lots of twisting and bowing stresses going on in this wood. We want to make sure it's all tightly clamped. We also want to make sure we don't clamp so tight that we clamp out all of the glue. You don't want our glue pressure to dry out our seams. We want glue left in there. I always go through, and I can tell just by making sure that I have about the same amount of pressure on all my clamps. We have good squeeze out on all of our seams, and we're clamped up good and solid. We also don't have any spaces. We don't want any spaces between our boards either. Okay, wait for it to dry. We've had our glue up in clamps overnight, and it's all dry. Let's take our clamps off. I want to talk a little bit about our glue up. I have red oak, mahogany, poplar, 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 red oak, poplar, mahogany, poplar. Anyway, that's the wood that we use. I got 1 strip of dark walnut over here, black walnut over here. I have my red oak pieces extend way out beyond the rest of my wood. That way, if there is any snipe, we're going to be running this through the planer. If there's any snipe on the planer snipe will take place beyond the wood that I want to make the breadboard out of. So that's why I always make sure when I glue up a breadboard that there is a few pieces that are extra long. Okay, we're going to take our glue scraper here. scrape off all the glue. I have my benchtop planer all set up and we're ready to plane this down. I've scraped off all the glue. We'll run it through until we're clean on both sides. I'm not after any particular thickness, I'm just after clean on both sides. We ended up with a board 11 3/4 wide. We're going to now cut it into 1 5/8 strips to create our end grain board, and we should end up with an end grain board of about 18 inches long. But let's go ahead and cut our strips first. Okay, we've got all our strips cut. Let's turn the end grain up. Okay, and let's reverse every board. Oh, there's a nice pattern for our board right there. Let's glue that up. We've allowed our glue to dry real good. Let's take it out of clamps. Okay, ooh, it came out really nice. Now, if I had the equipment, the best way to finish this off right now, because it's end grain, would be to take it through a wide belt or a drum sander. I don't own either one of them, so I'm going to work down the top of this with just my palm sander. I've got a good flat surface because I glued it up really good, but I'm going to have to work down all of my lines really good here with a palm sander, starting with 80 grit and working down to 150 grit. Let me spend some time sanding and we'll come back and take a look. I spent about 10 minutes working my belt sander back and forth across the grain and brought it down nice and flat and level on both sides. I also gave a 45-degree chamfer on the back side for a handhold, and I'm now going to put a 3/16 round over on this front edge, and then I'll go all over it with my 150 grit to give it a final sand. Let's go ahead and put this edge on. Okay, let me do the finish sanding, then we'll come back and we'll put a nice oil on it, and it'll really bring those colors out. Now, I have spent about 45 minutes doing all of the sanding, routing, and getting it ready for the oil finish. I have brought the end grain reeled down real smooth so it's all nice and ready to go. You know, it's hard to believe that this breadboard was out of those twisted and warped pieces of wood. The oak that I used was helped straighten it up, but all of this light colored wood was all of that really twisted stuff that we could hardly even find a use for, and yet it has made a beautiful breadboard. Let's oil it up and see. Okay, we're just going to be using mineral oil. There are special cutting board oils, but they all have a lot of mineral oil in them, and so I just use regular mineral oil for my cutting boards. It's food safe and easily to apply. Okay, our end grain, I can tell, really soaks that oil up. We're going to have to give it a second application of oil once this all dries. See how those make those colors pop. Oh wow, isn't that pretty? The poplar has a little bit of a green tinge to it, which is unusual. A poplar has a little green in it, but that oil really brings it out. Beautiful breadboard. Well, the next time you think about throwing out that board because it's warped and twisted, let's see what you can do with yours. And I'm going to see you next time on Woodworking with Wes.